is the eye protection, the N95 mask, as well as gloves. We're also trying to educate deputies on, the most recent information out there on protecting themselves.
Sure.
We've just instituted, which I think that will go a long way to keep deputies safe as well as the public, because our goal here is to reduce interaction among one another until we get through this situation. So we just started a telephone reporting system to, when somebody calls for the sheriff's office, the call is evaluated, and if it meets the criteria, which is a misdemeanor case where a suspect is not present, where we don't have to collect evidence, it's not really a reason the deputy has to go. It just needs to be documented and reported. That's being sent to our call center, and we've got 4 deputies at a time that are working that call center to take a telephone report. They give the case number to the complainant. That can then, we could email the report. A lot of times those type of cases are basically due for insurance reasons. Somebody needs a copy of the report. So those would be misdemeanor crimes, a lot, petty theft case, even some low-level felony, specifically like credit card fraud or harassment, things like that. But the bottom line is, if a citizen requests a deputy, we're going to send one out there to them. This is just an attempt to, to create that social distance where we can, and reduce the interaction where we can.
And I assume that you guys are still patrolling in the same ways that you maybe had in the past.
We still have our same manpower out working our patrol zones and responding to calls for service every day, 24/7.
And when you talk about safety equipment, I imagine it wasn't easy to get all of the safety equipment you needed. Have you struggled with that?
Yes, absolutely. We actually have one N95 mask per patrol deputy. We're looking to, the other units that are in contact with people, we're working on getting those, and we've got our tentacles out far and wide to try to obtain those, but very hard to come by right now. We've got some orders in with private vendors, as well as working with emergency management through the state EOC to get some N95 masks in. We're very fortunate that the supply that we do have, we were able to, the Lynn Haven Fire Department was gracious enough to let us have some of their stock.
Sure, that's great.
So we're all working together, try to make sure that our people are protected, and that the citizens are as well.
Yeah. Talk about the jail. Obviously, you're ultimately in charge of the jail,
Right.
And those employees there work for you, and people don't necessarily have a lot of good feelings for inmates sometimes, but their safety is your responsibility as well.
Absolutely. We're responsible for the care and custody and control of the inmates, and we take that very seriously. That's something that I am concerned with because of the environment of the jail, with a lot of people in a confined space, closed space. Certainly I could see if we were to get this virus introduced into there, it would be bad situation. So we're taking a lot of precautions. One of the first things that we're doing is screening staff when they come to work. Every staff member gets their temperature taken with an infrared thermometer. They're asked questions about, if they're having any of the symptoms of illness, and travel. That we're on top of, trying to determine if employees travel and things like that, and putting them, in self-isolation if they have traveled. We've also taken the at-risk inmates, those over 60 and those that are immunocompromised, and placed them in a separate dorm. Now that was a little difficult because we had to move quite a few inmates around in order to establish a dorm that was for that quarantine. Every new inmate that comes in is being screened, their temperatures taken, they're being asked the questions from the CDC on travel or exposure to a known COVID-19 case, a battery of medical questions, and then they're being, if they are exhibiting signs of illness, we do have 2 negative pressure cells where we can hold a small amount, 6 to 8 inmates that they're isolated, called a negative pressure cell. We also have every inmate that comes in is going into isolation, to where we've got 2 per cell, and we're trying to do that as long as that room will allow.
Sure.
For 14 days. It's the new ones that come in, keep them separated in that area before they go into general population.
Yeah. Have you guys looked at low-level offenders, maybe releasing some of them from the jail, just because having fewer people in there would be a better situation?
We're actually working with the courts on that. Judge Patterson and the other judges have understand the situation, and we're working with them. What we're looking at first is individuals that have been sentenced to misdemeanors that are coming close to the end of their sentence, a month or two from the end of their sentence, and potentially releasing those. We're also looking at violation of probation cases, also looking at bonds. The judges are looking at bonds, and all of these are not the sheriff's office making a decision on who, stays in and who could be considered for release. We're working with the courts on that, and the judges are making those decisions. We appreciate them looking at that situation. We're also working with our local law enforcement agencies on to issue notice to appears when possible, which is for nonviolent misdemeanor cases. Of course, I always put the caveat when I talk to the chiefs on that, because sometimes there's just times when somebody needs to go to jail. So we're always open for business, and if there's a need for somebody to come to jail, even if it's a lower level offense, that's part of keeping our community safe. And sometimes there's situations that somebody just needs to be removed from a situation, or otherwise it's only going to get worse. So.
Yeah, absolutely. Are you, one of our Facebook, I think several of our Facebook commenters are asking about Deer Point Lake. I imagine in the sense that there are other places besides the beach where a lot of people will congregate. I know people may go to Shell Island or Deer Point Lake or, the Springs. As far as I know, I'm not sure you guys can do too much about that if they haven't shut those places down, but have you been looking at any of those sort of other locations?
Have not received any calls about the Deer Point or the Springs, but that's a good point. Something that we'll look into and talk to the county. I think the county controls the Deer Point Lake Park, as well as the maybe the water district I think controls the Springs. But the bottom line is people. This is not at this point a shelter-in-place situation. It's,
right.
People are encouraged to maintain that social distancing or separation from other people. I think that recreation and being outside is healthy and helpful in this situation, as long as people are obeying those rules.
Have we had any issues in Bay County with people sort of, we've all sort of been through a lot emotionally, and then we're asking people to sort of stay in their homes a lot more or work from home. People have lost their jobs. Are you guys seeing problems with that in terms of either domestic violence or other kinds of an uptick in some kinds of crimes?
No, we're not really seeing that. I mean, I think everybody we have been through a lot. I mean, you look at what we've gone through with the hurricane, but this community certainly rises to those challenges and works together. I think people realize that when they stay home, when they stay away from other people, it's not just for their own protection, but it's for the community as a whole, because if they had it, they could spread it, or if they were out and they caught it, they could spread it to their children or their parents. And so I think people understand the seriousness of the situation, and for the most part are complying with what's being asked of them.
Okay. Have you seen any sort of price gouging issues? Have you guys dealt with any of that?
We have not seen a lot of that. I was just made aware when I came in here about some potential issues that we'll look into. Our Attorney General, Ashley Moody, that really falls under her purview. It's really a civil matter, but she has a lot of authority over that, and I know she's been very active in getting information out and conducting investigations on those. But I'm not aware of any issues here locally of any particular concern.
I think there's some concern, and there's obviously been some panic buying of certain items. None of us can find toilet paper lately, or it keeps getting bought out in the first sort of run in the morning. Is there a law enforcement issue there? Is there something you guys can do? Is there a way to calm people down? Do we need to start mandating some supplies somewhere along the way?
Well, I have seen some of that, and I've had a little trouble getting some toilet paper myself. I just took some out of the bathroom here at the station, actually. So,
if you need it, please take it.
People just need to realize that to be reasonable with that. There's not a, a shortage of toilet paper. I read a article this weekend that most of that, or all of the toilet paper, are manufactured here domestically, and they're really ramping up production. And they were talking about there will come a time shortly where there'll be a surplus of those type of items because people have bought a year's worth, and they're going to be continually coming in. So I think that's a short term, based on not based on supply, but based on overreacted demand.
Sure. I know the governor has not issued a shelter in place yet, and he may not ever issue that.
Right.
But certainly other states have gone ahead and done that. What would that look like? Have you gotten some guidance from the state or from the federal government on what you guys would do if there was this kind of shelter in place ordinance in our area?
Well, first of all, what I'd like to say is, because we've got a lot of phone calls, I've got them from friends and people in the community, and a lot of our people have as well. I think there was a rumor going around about a nationwide quarantine,
Right.
and that it was going to be enforced. People were saying, hey, it's supposed to start Monday, which is today. I have not heard anything whatsoever from the federal government or the state government about a shutdown of the entire state or a shutdown of the entire country, and I think we would be, notified of that. It could come to a situation where it's necessary. I think the governor is taking very prudent steps in that we're a large state, a very diverse state, a state that is affected in other areas, some more than others. I mean, if you look at the panhandle, we're seeing an increase in cases out to our west, but if you look to the east of here, all the way to almost to Jacksonville, you're not really seeing a lot of cases. So I think it's wise to look at the entire situation. It may come to a point that certain local, counties or sections of the state that are affected more, do have to consider that. Right now, I don't see that here, as long as people are doing the right thing and trying to maintain social distancing, stay at home when they can. I hope that it doesn't come to that. Although those decisions are made much higher level than me, but I did have an opportunity to talk to the governor the other day about the beach situation, and I think he's making very prudent steps in dealing with this, and I think that our state governments and the federal government are both doing a great job of addressing this situation.
And one or two last things here. We see these sort of rumors all the time, and I know probably people call you or call 911 or whatever. And I think I saw over the weekend that it was something about gas, and they're something's going to happen there, or that they're going to shut down the highways, and that kind of thing. And it's like, there could be some ramifications here, but it's not just gonna you're not gonna magically wake up one morning and
Right.
There's gonna be, I think you would agree, probably some warnings there. And I mean, how are you sort of dealing with the rumor mill and the social media mill?
Well, just to give some advice to people, use your trusted news sources. WMBB, our other local media outlets are going to vet that type of information. And, if it's a question, hey, is the sheriff's office going to close down roads, which we're not going to do that, y'all would be calling us to verify that. So
Sure.
use trusted sources for your information. There is a lot of misinformation that's being spread via the social media and the internet. But if you go to your government sources and your traditional media sources, that's where you're going to get the true information of what can be confirmed. We look at the Department of Health site, the Bay County Emergency Services, the Sheriff's Office. We try to do we've got a lot of followers on our site, so we try to, depending on what the crisis is, we try to share information. We share information from emergency management, from the state, from the school district, quite a bit. So go to those trusted sources and don't put too much stock in what you hear from other sources.
Sure, absolutely. Sheriff, is there anything else you want the public to know? Anything we didn't touch on that you just kind of want to share with people before we wrap up?
I know this has been a big concern. This is a serious situation, but we've been through a lot of challenges in the past 2 years in this community, and we've always risen to those challenges, and we've done it together. I think we can be very proud of our community, and it's important to take precautions, listen to the advice that's given by government officials, but don't don't overreact and don't panic, because we're going to get through this just like we have everything else.
All right. Well, Sheriff, thank you again for being here.
Thank you
I
for
want to
having
thank
me.
you guys at home for watching, and we'll see you tomorrow.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.